Hello, this is Photography Gamer, welcome back to the channel. Today I am reviewing Death Stranding. Death Stranding is an open world game developed by Kojima Productions. It's the first game Hideo Kojima has made since he had an acrimonious split from Konami in 2015. Since the game's release, there have been some mixed reviews. Some people love it, some people hate it. I've played the game for around 50 plus hours. I've completed it, so this review will be as comprehensive as it can be without including any spoilers. Death Stranding is set in a dystopian future where the remaining survivors have formed communities that are disconnected from each other, both physically and technologically. The main premise or goal of the game is to reconnect the different communities by delivering certain items to them in order to expand the chiral network and reconnect society, and also to reconnect the society physically through rebuilding infrastructure like roads. You play as Sam Porter Bridges. Sam is a porter. Porters are the couriers who deliver the packages from one community to the other. The narrative is told mainly through very long cutscenes, although the longer ones seem to be at the start of the game, and after the first 3 hours they do become a little bit easier to digest. Generally it's very well implemented, but at the start it is a little bit overused, and I do worry that the opening 3 hours will put off a lot of mainstream gamers who don't have a lot of patience. So the game has a stellar cast including Norman Reedus and Mads Mikkelsen amongst many others. The script is actually much better than I'd expected, but it does still have the odd cringe moment. But in general it's a vast improvement on the Metal Gear Solid days. However, the actual names of the characters in the game are quite ridiculous. For example, Fragile, Dead Man, Die Hard Man, Please Not Another Cutscene Man. I made the last one up, by the way. But weird names aside, the story is actually pretty interesting in terms of the concepts it explores, and if you can make it through the first 3 hours, the story starts to settle down nicely and it becomes a lot more palatable. The game has a large open world, but most of the time you're the only person in it. It's similar in a way to Shadow of the Colossus, with lots of vast empty spaces. But there are times where you will encounter enemies such as BTs or people trying to steal your packages. I think they're called mules. On the whole, it's a very solitary, lonely road you walk from one community to the other. However, it's not as simple as just walking there, delivering the package and you're done. There's a little bit more to it than that. The game world is full of challenging terrain to traverse, especially as you're carrying huge boxes with a lot of weight on your back or on your sides, so it's all about balance, it's all about counterbalance, and trying to find the most effective route so that you don't fall and damage the cargo. So a simple thing like walking up a hill becomes a real challenge in itself. Actually saying all that out loud, it doesn't sound very interesting, and on the surface it isn't. But after a short while you really do get immersed into the loop of the game. Obviously this is not going to appeal to everyone. The fact that this was marketed at the mainstream AAA audience I think was a little bit of a mistake, because those type of gamers generally want things like FIFA, they want COD, they want Fortnite and the like. This is not an action game, it's a slow burning indie type game. It has more in common with indie games than AAA games. So the gameplay style is very slow, very methodical, and very strategic. It's more about patience than exhilaration, which is why I think the game has had a mixed response from game reviewers. One of the main features you'll be using whilst playing is the inventory system. You have to place each parcel on your person and try to get the most balanced configuration for each delivery. Otherwise, when you're on a slippery slope full of rocks, you could be imbalanced, drop everything, and you might have to even start over the entire mission. But thankfully there is an auto-fit function which does help speed things up if you're pressed for time. But as you go further in the game, the deliveries can become more complex and you have a lot more material, so you have to be a little bit more creative in terms of how you wear them on your person, how you kind of manage that. The main threat to your deliveries, apart from the terrain, are BTs. BTs are supernatural, mysterious figures that come out in the rain and are from some sort of parallel dimension. I could try to explain the backstory of it, but it would take me about 3 years, so just take my word for it. BTs, bad. You also have raiders who try and steal your packages. They're called mules. If they scan you in the environments, they will come at you like on foot or in cars, and they can produce some of the most intense scenes in the game. Like the chases up hills and things can be crazy at times. You also have a terrorist organization full of extremists who are dead set against you reconnecting society. They're led by some guy called Higgs. Higgs wears a gold mask and he basically looks like a badass version of Skeletor from He-Man, but a lot more blingy. One thing about Death Stranding that I have to emphasize are the unique and original features. The environments have acid rain that ages you if it hits your skin. The game deals with the supernatural and the afterlife. You have a bridge baby attached to your chest which warns you when the BTs appear. At first it's a little bit creepy, but you will get attached to it over a period of time. Your character has dooms, which is like a sixth sense. When BTs come close to you, you can sense that they're there, but you can't see them at first. The game uses balance and physics when you're traversing the environments very well, different to a lot of other games. The only other game that used it like this was a game called Mud Runners, which I also quite liked. Another cool feature is the private room. Inside this room, it's just where you go to have a little break, and it has a host of things that you can check on or do. So you can have a shower, go to the toilet, have a snooze, check your weapons, clothing, customize things. You can even pick up some piss and shit grenades. I shit you not. What the fuck? You can monitor the BB and also have a Monster energy drink. Yes, product placement unfortunately is in Death Stranding, as is a commercial for Norman Reedus' new TV show. But honestly, it's not that intrusive. It's done in a tongue-in-cheek way rather than an intrusive way that, say, EA or 2K Games would have done it. One of the most interesting features in the game is the communal aspect of the play. For example, you can leave things around the map and other players can collect them, deliver them. You place a ladder, climb up it, and instead of taking it with you, you leave it. And then others can use it and follow in your footsteps, and vice versa. So it's all about random acts of kindness and helping each other out, helping out the community. So even though the environments do feel empty, they do also feel like there is a presence there. There are other people there doing what you're doing, so it's not as lonely as it first appears. It's a very interesting concept, and the world develops over time. Bridges pop up, ladders, buildings, pathways that are trodden regularly start to clear and make it easier to travel. People can contribute to your structures with the materials, so it's really nice to have a feature that brings the player base together in a natural way, rather than having anything that's focused on trolling and aggravation. Okay, so what about graphics? Well, as you can see, the visuals are amazing. The character models and small details are excellent. The way the characters move and traverse the environments looks and feels realistic. The only issue I noticed was with some of the facial animations looking a little bit wooden and awkward. It was only once or twice, but apart from those instances, I didn't really experience any graphical problems. It's a fantastic game to look at. Also, when you have an encounter with the BTs and it all kicks off, the effects are just amazing. It's a real wow moment. It just makes you sit up and think, holy shit, this is fantastic. It's such a unique thing I'm looking at. The environments are vast and feel very natural in how they're laid out. One reminded me particularly of the Scottish mountains, but you have other areas like derelict cities and craters, etc. It's all very well imagined and everything works very well. The lighting effects are fantastic, especially during some of the cutscenes. Some of them look visually right up there with like a Hollywood blockbuster in terms of the style, the lighting, the cinematography, the way it's been executed. So kudos to the team that put that together. There isn't a traditional photo mode in the game. However, you can take snapshots in the private room at one of the sinks, making silly faces. It's pretty limited, but you still can take a shot. You can turn off the HUD in the game environment, so you can take screenshots that way, or I found taking a rest, then finding a nice composition that way as you're sitting on the floor can make for a nice shot or two. But generally, the ability to capture photos and screenshots is limited. I'm sure they'll add it at a later date if the demand is there from the player base, but it's not there at the moment. So sound, music and voice. Is the music fitting to the game? Some of the music is amazing. I'd say in particularly the ambient music and the score. Score as in the music that's playing for atmosphere. The soundtrack is maybe a little bit more hit and miss. Whereas the ambient stuff is very immersive, some of the actual soundtrack can be an immersion breaker and take you out of the experience sometimes. It's mainly due to the on-screen text. As the song begins playing, it shows the song name, the artist and the publishing company. It feels a little bit like a Spotify commercial or something like that. It's a little thing that impacts negatively on the immersion factor. But saying that, most of that music is actually very nicely fitting. It depends if you like that kind of stuff. It's quite dreary and sort of easy listening stuff. You know, it's sort of, it's okay if you like that kind of thing. Some of the tracks I liked, some of them I could have done without, but it's all about your personal preference, I guess. All the sound effects and the environmental ambience is very well done, and there wasn't anything I picked up on that felt out of place. The voice acting is a very good standard. Even in some scenes or dialogue sections where the script is a bit dry and pretentious, all the actors still do a decent job. There was only a couple of moments where I was cringing. Norman Reedus and Mads Mikkelsen absolutely kind of nail it and they steal the show. The rest of the cast do a decent job, but none of them really stand out above each other. Okay, so what's good and what's bad about Death Stranding? What's good? The game feels like no other game I've ever played. It's genuinely an original piece of art. It's got so many interesting concepts and ideas built into it. The community aspect where you can help your fellow gamers out is a great feature and one that I think will grow over time. The graphics and sound are amazing. The cutscenes are actually pretty good. Kojima has definitely learnt from his mistakes over the years and it's the best cutscenes in any Kojima game to date. It's a very stress-free experience. Even on the harder difficulty, it's not that difficult. It's more a challenge of endurance than a difficult proposition to complete. And also, another good point is the casting is very good. The cast, the actors, the actresses, very good choices. Okay, what's bad about Death Stranding? The first 3 hours are a big struggle to get through because of the endless cutscenes. The gameplay will get very tedious for gamers who aren't very patient. The story is interesting but also gets very busy and can get quite muddled and confused at times. There is no photo mode, and with the community side of the game it seems like this game should have had a photo mode because it would have fitted the kind of sharing mechanic that's built into the game. The game is quite repetitive, and even if you are a die-hard Kojima fan and you love this game to death, no pun intended, you will at some point get a little tired of it. You will get a little bit bored of another delivery, another long walk up a mountain. It won't last for long because the game is very rich and interesting in terms of lots of aspects, but gameplay, it can get a little bit repetitive and a little bit boring after you've played it for about 15 to 20 hours. Okay, so what's the verdict? Death Stranding is a true one-off. It's a game made by a creative person who's been given 100% backing to make whatever he wanted to make. No restrictions, no filter, no corporate money men holding him back. The result is a spectacular and unique experience. It's full of creative and interesting ideas. Not all of them work, but the vast majority do. It's got a good story, albeit a slightly bewildering one. It's a game about patience. It's a game about bringing people together. It's a game about seeing the fruits of your labour change the landscape and helping society heal their wounds and rebuild the world together after a massive catastrophe. It's not perfect, but it's a very good game with so much to admire and appreciate. So who should buy this game? If you're patient and you have an appreciation for a more independent game vibe, then you'll really enjoy this. If you enjoy new experiences, if you enjoy working together with people for a common goal, if you enjoy quirky and weird stories with odd game mechanics, then this is right up your street. If you prefer a more mainstream action-orientated game, then you will struggle with this, because the main part of this game is just walking around or riding a bike, or it's going from A to B and trying not to damage your cargo, and that can get a little repetitive for some gamers. So if you're not a patient gamer or you don't appreciate a slow burning experience, then you're going to find this one a real challenge to get into. Right, so it's time to score Death Stranding. Before I played it, I had pretty low expectations. Everything I'd seen and heard about the game looked interesting, but I felt it might not live up to the hype the media had placed upon it. After playing it for about 3 hours, I was really quite concerned it was going to be a complete turkey of a game. But after that 3-hour period, I really started to enjoy it. Once I was able to get my teeth into the actual gameplay, I just immersed myself into the game world, into the game character, and I really did love it all the way through the journey. It's a very interesting and different type of game. It's a game that will affect and change how games are developed in the future, I think. It's the first time I feel we've ever seen an artist be given complete autonomy on a project by a big money studio. That was one thing I was really worried about because I thought it might be a little too much control. But to be fair, Kojima clearly has some good people around him to help him keep him on the right path. You know, even an artist needs a second opinion sometimes, and this game feels like Kojima finally has the right people around him to fully capture and express his creative vision. So I'm really happy and I'm really proud of Hideo for what he's created. I've been playing his games for years now, and it's nice to see someone really flourish and fulfill their true potential like this. So with all that being said, my score for Death Stranding is 8.5 out of 10. It's a very important game in the bigger scheme of things. It may not be for everyone, but it's a valuable piece of work. It's going to unlock a lot of doors for a lot of young artists who want to create games that are different. Games that wouldn't otherwise have been made because they didn't fit with the stereotypical mold of the mainstream formula. So for that, we should all thank Kojima, even if we don't like this game. This game will lead to other games that might end up blowing your mind. So be grateful for Death Stranding because it's a healthy games industry that can allow something like this to exist. Okay, so that wraps up Death Stranding. I hope you enjoyed the review and found it useful. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel as I'll be reviewing some more new releases soon. Thank you for watching and have a great day. This is Photography Gamer signing off. Thank you.
Anybody home?